Hello and welcome back to Learn the Bible in a Year for May 3rd, 2026. Today is National Lemonade Day. I love lemonade. That's all I'm going to say about that. Today we're covering Joshua's farewell speech, Israel's covenant renewal, John the Baptist's humility before Jesus, and then Psalms 55 closing words on betrayal and trust. So let's jump right into it. So today we come to the end of the book of Joshua. The land has been allotted. The battles are largely behind Israel. And Joshua is now an old leader giving final words to his people in a very similar way that Moses did in Deuteronomy. In Joshua 23, he reminds them that the Lord will fight for them. The victories are not proof that Israel was impressive, they're proof that God keeps his promises. He also warns them not to drift into worship of the nations around them. That warning matters because the danger after blessing is often forgetfulness. When people are desperate, they know they need God, but when they're comfortable, well, they start acting like they personally invented oxygen. Joshua calls Israel to cling to the Lord and to reject divided loyalty. Then in Joshua 24, he gathers the tribes at Shechem, which is a place loaded with Israel's history. Joshua retells the story from Abraham to the Exodus, the wilderness, and the conquest. The point is very simple. Israel's story is not, look what we've achieved, it's, look what God has done. Now, a question you might have here is, why does Joshua tell them to put away other gods if they're already in the promised land? Because living near God's blessing doesn't automatically mean that they have a heart fully devoted to God. Israel could not live in the land, attend a covenant ceremony, and still carry divided loyalties. That is uncomfortable, but it's very honest. And these are questions we should be asking ourselves as well. We might say with our mouth that we love the Lord and that we follow Jesus, but are there idols in our own lives? Now, these might not be carved images like you see, here in the Old Testament, but they could be, things that we worship more than we worship the Lord. Some notable examples might be, addictive things, pornography, alcohol, gambling, you fill in the blank addiction, or even worshiping things like sports and TV and YouTube videos and everything in between, right? We're not actively worshiping those things like we're singing songs to them, but we're devoting our time and we're devoting our attention to those things. So, what type of idols do we have in our own lives? Where are areas where we are choosing to not allow the Lord in? That's going to end up being my main takeaway from today, but I'll get to that at the end of the episode. And at the end of this chapter, Joshua finally dies. But good for the Israelites, God's faithfulness does not die with Joshua. All right, now moving on, we're reading John chapter 3, verses 22 through 36. Now, we're here in Jesus' ministry when it's growing, and John the Baptist's disciples notice that more people are going to Jesus. This is the exact kind of moment where insecurity typically walks in, pulls up a chair, and starts offering terrible advice. John could have competed with Jesus. He could have protected his own platform, if you will. Instead, he responds with clarity and joy. He says that a person only receives what heaven gives. His role was never to be Christ, his role was to point to Christ. John understands that his calling is stewardship, not ownership. If our gifts, influence, or ministry are entrusted by God, we can hold them with open hands. And John uses a picture of a wedding. He is not the bridegroom, he is the friend who rejoices when the bridegroom arrives. So John is not losing his purpose, he is actually seeing his purpose fulfilled. Now, a question you might have here is, how can John be joyful while this public influence is starting to shrink? Because his identity is not built on being the main character. Our culture trains us to measure significance by attention. But John's joy comes from alignment with God's purpose. There is freedom in knowing that you are not the Christ. I mean, gosh, amen to that, I'd say. John shows us the beauty of decreasing without despair because Jesus is increasing. And the passage ends by centering everything on the Son. The Father loves the Son and has entrusted everything to him. And we're going to finish up today reading the last half of Psalms 55, verses 12 through 23, and it goes like this. For it was not an enemy who insulted me, then I could have endured it. Neither was it he who hated me, who raised himself against me, then I would have hidden myself from him. But it was you, a man like me, my companion, my familiar friend. We took sweet fellowship together. We walked in God's house with company. Let death come suddenly on them. Let them go down alive to Sheol, for wickedness is among them in their dwelling. As for me, I will call on God. Yahweh will save me. Evening, morning, and at noon I will cry out in distress. He will hear my voice. He has redeemed my soul in peace from the battle that was against me, though there are many who oppose me. God, who is enthroned forever, will hear and answer them. Selah. They never change who don't fear God. He raises his hand against his friends. He has violated his covenant. His mouth was smooth as butter, but his heart was war. His words were softer than oil, yet they were drawn swords. Cast your burden on Yahweh, and he will sustain you. He will never allow the righteous to be moved, but you, God, will bring them down into the pit of destruction. Bloodthirsty and deceitful men shall not live out half their days, but I will trust in you. Alrighty, just a quick word from our sponsors, and this show is sponsored by Good Leads. And Good Leads is a company that I own, full disclosure, and we provide outbound leads to medium-sized B2C businesses. Good Leads is dedicated to helping businesses maximize revenue while decreasing marketing costs. To find out more, click the link in the show note to see if your business qualifies. And this episode is also brought to you by Covenant Security Equipment. Covenant Security Equipment is a Christian-owned company that sells everything home and business security. Things like safety windows and doors and safes and walls and really you name it. To find out more, go to covenantsecurityequipment.com. All right. What was your main takeaway from today's reading? I kind of talked about my main takeaway already previously in the episode, but it's just this idea of looking at our own lives. What idols do we have in our own lives? And I want to make sure you understand this is not some sort of legalistic thing. It's not like, oh, you have an idol in your life, so therefore you ought to do better so that once you've done better, then God will be happy with you. Well, just read the Gospels. That's not the way that God works at all. God desires a relationship with us, and we can have a relationship with Him because of the sacrifice that Jesus made for us. So it's not this like measuring contest to see who has the least number of idols. However, having an idol in your life is literally the opposite of having a relationship with Jesus. And we want to have a good relationship with Jesus. So let's not have these idols in our lives, right? All right, what was your main takeaway from today? I'd be curious to know. Put it down in the comment section wherever it is that you listen to this show. And that's the end of today's episode. And I will see all of you cool cats again here tomorrow.